When it comes to training, everyone makes mistakes in the beginning. I know I did, but that doesn't mean you should too. So here are mistakes that are killing your gains. The first one is sandbagging your workouts. I've said this before and I will keep on saying this. If you want serious results, you need to train hard. By hard, I mean that you need to train close to failure. You don't need to fail on every set you do, but you should be no more than 3 reps away from failure. It is a good idea to not train to failure in barbell squats, deadlifts, or any movement where failing can potentially lead you to getting injured, but you should still train pretty close to failing the set. And in safer movements, training to absolute failure from time to time can be a viable strategy. The problem in most cases is that if you have never experienced true failure, estimating how far you are from it will be difficult. You might think that you have 2 or 3 reps left in the tank, but in reality, it can be that you are actually 5 or 6 reps away from failure. So how to fix it? Well, it's pretty simple. Just fail. Okay, so what you need to do is pick a movement where failing will be relatively safer, like a bicep curl or an inclined dumbbell bench press. When the set starts to get difficult, you say to yourself how many reps you think you have left in the tank and then proceed with your set until you physically can't move the weight anymore. Don't stop when the weight just starts to feel heavy. Keep pushing until you reach the point where you won't be able to finish the rep even if someone points a gun to your head. The second mistake is not resting enough. You know that you are allowed to take a break, right? There's no need to start your next set before you feel recovered for it. Resting for a sufficient time will let you push yourself properly in the next set, which will in turn make the workout more productive as the loads and the volume you can handle will increase. No, I am not asking you to turn into a powerlifter and take long naps in between your sets. All I'm saying is that don't rush through your workout when you know you need more rest. The amount of rest required will vary vastly from both person to person and exercise to exercise. Take me for example. I rest 3 to 5 minutes in between sets of heavy compound movements like the bench press or overhead press, but on the other hand, in case of isolation movements for smaller muscles like calves or forearms, anywhere from 20 to 90 seconds of rest is fine for me. There is a really good method from Renaissance Periodization to figure out how much rest do you need in between sets. I will put a link to that video in the description, but in short, it goes somewhat like this. You know that you are okay to proceed with your next set when number 1, you are not short of breath. Number 2, you feel like your supporting muscles won't be a limiting factor. Number 3, you are mentally prepared to go train hard in the next set. Number 4, you can do at least 5 more reps in the next set. The third mistake is not taking progression seriously. Progressive overload is one of the most important things that you need to have in your training for it to be a successful one. You can't just do 3 sets of 10 with the same weight for months on end and expect significant results. You need to provide your muscles with more and more stimulus over time for it to adapt and grow. Luckily, the fix is really simple. You just need to increase at least one of these following. Number 1, load. Number 2, reps. And number 3, sets. A dynamic progression method is a really simple yet effective one. Here you decide a fixed rep range and volume, let's say 6 to 10 reps for 3 sets. Then you pick a weight with which you can do reps around the lower end of the range. Let's use 50 kgs as an example. So you start with 3 sets of 6 with 50 kilograms and stick with the weight until you are able to do 3 sets of 10 with 50 kgs. Once you hit the top end of the range, you increase the weight and repeat the process. There are many more progression methods. I will probably make a separate video about them in the future, but for now, this will work. The fourth mistake is not taking your accessories and isolation work seriously. I know that it's really fun to do the big, heavy compound movements, and that's actually a good thing because those movements provide a very high stimulus. But that doesn't mean you should skip your isolation and accessory work. You need to take your isolation work seriously. Very few people train their chest flies or leg extensions with the same intensity as their bench press or squats, when actually you should train them with more effort and intensity than your compound movements because they are easier to recover from when taken to failure or with higher volumes. Apart from the arms and probably shoulders, most people train the other smaller muscles as mere fluff or pump work, or they just straight up ignore them. I know you skip training your calves. Time for the last and probably the most controversial mistake in this video. We all want to look aesthetic and have shredded abs, but staying lean all year round is most likely a bad thing for you. In order to put on muscle effectively, you need to bulk bulk, and bulk. Think about it, you can't build something out of thin air. So if you're already somewhat lean, then from where will you provide your body with the nutrients, energy, and other materials for it to build muscle? And even if you're not very lean and try to build muscle and lose fat at the same time, it is a really inefficient process. I believe in having a dedicated massing phase when you gain weight in a slow and reasonable pace, followed by a cutting phase where you lose fat while trying to retain as much muscle as possible. And even if you lose a little bit of muscle while cutting, the net gain will still outclass main gaining. When you do decide to bulk, do it in a very slow manner to avoid excessive fat gain and stop at 22 or 23% body fat, or else the cut will take a really long time. Okay, with everything said, none of these solutions will help you if you ignore the basics. Like for example, proper technique. This thing should be paramount. If you have bad technique, forget everything else and just focus on improving that. Another one is adequate protein. You need to consume at least 1.5 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight or 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. Having proper sleep is always up there. I will say at least 7 hours of sleep per night, or sleep enough to make you feel rested. Sufficient volume. Train with 8 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. And consistency, both in terms of training as a whole or exercise selection. Be patient and trust the process. Don't try to switch exercises every week. Pick a handful of exercises, stick to them for a few months, progress on them, and then switch if you want to. You can try everything you want, but if you got the basics wrong, nothing will work properly. Don't believe me? Here's the proof.